Paul Bunyan is no hero to the loggers of the Olympic Peninsula. It is no longer true that they have not heard of him. The figure of the huge logger looms up in too many advertisements for that, and Bunyan is a feature of forest festivals and splashes, as some 4th of July celebrations are still called in the long log country. But as they sit around the bunkhouses or the stool and counter restaurants or the backwoods taverns, loggers certainly do not talk of Paul or Johnny Inkslinger or Babe the Blue Ox. They are quite likely, however, to yarn about John Huelsdonck, the Iron Man of the Hoe. When, in October 1945, the newspapers of Western Washington carried on their front pages the news that John Huelsdonck had died peacefully after a brief illness at the age of 79, many persons were surprised. There were those who thought that Huelsdonck had never existed, that he was all myth and folktale. Others thought that the Iron Man stories must be based on the exploits of some pioneer already long dead, and those, like myself, who had known the muscular fact of Huelsdonck's existence had simply taken it for granted that he would live on just this side of forever like a Douglas fir. The man did die, but the legend lives. 2. Back around 1905, they'll tell you on the peninsula, a party of Forest Servicemen was working through the deep woods in the Hoe Valley. The going was rough. This is the most rain-soaked part of the rainforest. The great moss-hung trees rose darkly from a tangle of vine maple. The rangers struggled into a clearing back from the river, and there they rested in woods so deep that not a bird sang. There was only the faint rustle of needled branches high above. Amid the cathedral calm, the men discussed the probability that no white men had ever been in this exact spot before them. As they talked, they heard a strange sound in the forest, a clanking, a hollow rattle, almost metallic. They eyed one another uneasily. The noise grew louder, and the rangers stood up, watchfully facing the unknown. Out of the woods came a man, big and bearded and heavy-chested. He moved at a slow trot. Fastened to the packboard on his back was a kitchen range. Seeing the rangers, the big man paused to pass the time of day. He was, he allowed, John Huelsdonck, and he was carrying in some goods for a neighbor. "But good heavens, man," someone protested, "isn't that stove awfully heavy?" "Oh, the weight isn't bad," said Huelsdonck, shrugging shoulders and stove. "But sometimes it's hard to keep my balance on a log when that sack of flour in the oven shifts." So goes the legend. There are other versions. One of them has Huelsdonck carrying a stove under each arm, obviously impossible, say historians of the period. There weren't 2 settlers on the Hoe who could afford new ranges.